So we now continue with photosynthesis. We are going to now understand the process of photosynthesis. Mesophyll cells, both pellucid and spongy, in a leaf are the principal centers of this activity. So the photosynthesis is going to take place in the mesophyll cells, which are both in the spongy mesophyll as well as the pellucid layer. During daytime, when sunlight falls on the leaf, the light energy is trapped by the chlorophyll of the upper layer of the mesophyll, especially the pellucid cells. This energy is utilized in chemical processes involved in the manufacture of food, where the raw material used are carbon dioxide and water. So we see that the mesophyll contains the chloroplast, the chlorophyll, and this during the daytime, the light energy which is entering over there is going to be trapped by these particular cells, and these energy which is trapped is being utilized for the process of the chemical reaction which is going to take place between the carbon dioxide and water during photosynthesis. So that's how the mesophills, or you can say sunlight, is being trapped. Secondly is, so now is the raw material carbon dioxide and water. So carbon dioxide from the atmosphere enters the leaf via diffusion down a concentration gradient, that is higher concentration outside the leaf and less concentration inside through the stomata. So since the carbon dioxide gradient is there, it is available in the plant, that inside the plant the carbon dioxide level is less, whereas outside it is more, and that's why the carbon dioxide enters from a higher concentration to lower concentration inside the cell through the stomatal opening. So that is why diffusion. Water from the soil is taken up by the roots, sent up through the stem and finally to the leaves, where it is distributed in the mesophyll tissue. So the water which is there, which is coming up from the xylem and going up to the leaves, and then it is distributed in the mesophyll layer, where the air spaces is there, where they are going to be entrapped, so in the form of water vapor. The chemical equation is represented by, so we see the chemical equation over here, and that is 6CO2 plus 12H2O in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll is going to get converted into C6H12O6, which is nothing but glucose, plus it is going to give me water, 6H2O plus 6O2, the gas. Okay, so this is the equation: 6CO2 plus 12H2O in the presence of light energy. We'll just say light energy. Okay, light and chlorophyll will give you C6H12O6, which is glucose, plus water plus oxygen. The glucose molecule C6H12O6 is simple sugar readily soluble in water. The 6 molecules of water liberated at the end of the process are those that are reformed during a chain of reaction and not out of the original one. So you can see that when I say that 12H2O liya tha and I am getting 6H2O, then why did I take 12H2O? The plant should have taken 6H2O only. Then no, it is not so, because this H2O is formed. So this is going to dissociate, combine with something else, and then as a product H2O is going to be formed. So that's why this H2O is actually reformed. Okay, it is a reformation of water which is going to take place. It is not the same as what was taken earlier during the equation. And that's why the presence of H2O here and here both are necessary. You cannot just say make this as 6H2O and make this as 6H12O6 and 6O2. No, it is not possible to do that. We have to show that 12H2 over here and 6H2 over here. Now the two main phases of photosynthesis are light dependent phase and light independent phase. So we can see that the photosynthesis can be divided into two processes. One is the light dependent phase and other is the light independent. So it is, one thing is light dependent and the next one is light independent. Now okay, here this can be said to be as dark phase, but it's better to say it as a dark light independent, because why dark phase? Because this doesn't require light. That's why it is light independent. When we say dark phase, उसका मतलब ये हो जाएगा वो सिर्फ रात को हो सकता है. No, it is not so. This is not requiring light, so it can take place any time of the day or night. Okay, this can take place any time during the day or night. It can take any time because it is not dependent on light. So that's why we call it, better is to say light independent rather than saying as a dark phase. The dark phase means it will be only in the night time, but it's not so. It can take place even in the daytime. Whereas this is light dependent, which will take only in the daytime. So the light dependent, of course, will take place only in the daytime, whereas this will take place in the night as well as day. Okay, so now let's see what happens in the light dependent phase, which is the photochemical phase. It's also called as the photochemical. Now this part are very, very important, so pay attention properly and see to it that you understand this thing properly. In this phase, light plays a key role. A series of chemical reactions occur in a very quick successions, initially by light, and therefore the phase is called as photochemical phase. The light reaction takes place in thylakoids containing chlorophyll of the chloroplast. The light reaction photochemical phase occurs in two main steps. So yeah, this thing takes place in the chloroplast. So yeah, of course it will be in the thylakoids where the chlorophyll is present. So this is going to take place in the thylakoid. So we can say that this takes place in the thylakoid, right? So this is taking place inside the thylakoid. Of course, this also is going to be there only, but yeah, it will be light dependent phase will be taking place in the thylakoid. Now this reaction is the photochemical reaction, which is going to take place in two steps. First one is activation of chlorophyll. The first thing is activation of chlorophyll. So chlorophyll, which is there, is going to get activated. Now how does it get activated? Is of course by the presence of sunlight. So photons, which are going to be absorbed by the chlorophyll, will activate it. So the chlorophyll, on exposure to light energy, becomes activated by absorbing photons. Photon is the smallest unit of the light energy. So photons, so it is going to get activated by the photons, which are the smallest particles of the sunlight. So smallest unit of the light is photons. So the chlorophyll is going to get activated by the photons. What happens next is the splitting of water. So splitting of water takes place. So here, this water which was here, this water is going to split in the next phase of the photochemical phase. So the absorbed energy is used in splitting the water molecule into two components, hydrogen and oxygen. So that's why we have the equation 2H2O under the reaction of 4 photons. They are going to become 4 hydrogen ions plus 4 electrons plus O2. This is what is going to be achieved by the splitting of the water. There will be 4 ions of hydrogen. Electrons which are present of the hydrogen are being lost, being just available over there, and oxygen is going to become in a form of O2 because of two molecules of water. There will be formation of oxygen, which is going to be given out over here. So the reaction over here is called as photolysis. Okay, this reaction what is taking place is called as photolysis. Okay, and which means splitting of light. That is, photo is light and lysis means breaking. So that's why it is called as photolysis. So this splitting is called as photolysis. Okay, this is a photolysis is the process which is taking place over here. So photolysis is the splitting of the water by the photons. So water is splitting into hydrogen ion plus electrons plus oxygen. So photolysis is defined as a splitting of the water molecule into hydrogen ion and oxygen in the presence of light and grana. So light and grana. What was grana? Grana was the thylakoid part. So that is grana and the light energy. They are going to give rise to photolysis, which is the splitting of water into hydrogen ions and oxygen. So the end results of the photolysis are, first of, the hydrogen ion H plus are picked up by a compound called NADP. So NADP is a compound which is nicotine amide, adenine, nicotine amide, adenine. So nicotine amide is one word, that is N. A is for adenine, okay, A is adenine. D is dinucleotide, okay, dinucleotide. P is phosphate. So it is nicotine amide, dinucleotide, phosphate. So this NADP is going to be added up with H plus ions to form NADPH. Okay, this NADP plus hydrogen ion, of course, plus the electron also, plus electron is going to give me NADPH. So NADPH, which is going to be formed over here. So that is with the help of an enzyme, and the oxygen molecules, the oxygen compound is given out as molecules of oxygen, that is O plus O will be O2, which is given out over here. The electron E are used in converting the ADP. So what is further is that the electrons which are here, this are going to convert the ADP. What is ADP? The ATP, this adenosine triphosphate ke bade diphosphate. Adenosine diphosphate plus the electron will make it ATP. That is, a diphosphate becomes triphosphate. Okay, the ADP, that is ADP plus the phosphate, there is nothing but the electron over here, is going to form into ATP. So the electrons E are used in converting the adenosine diphosphate into energy rich compound ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate, by adding one phosphate group P inorganic phosphate. So ADP plus phosphate inorganic gives you ATP. This process is called as phosphorylation, and because it takes place in presence of sunlight, that is the photons, that is why it is called as phosphorylation. Okay, photophosphorylation is the process in which the ATP gets converted into ADP gets converted into ATP with the help of the phosphate ion over here. So there is a phosphate over here. So this is the phosphate. Okay, phosphate. So this was the light independent phase. So light dependent phase. So what happens in light dependent phase? The water which was present, first of all, is the activation of the chlorophyll with the photons, and then there is a splitting of water into H plus and electron plus O2. The H plus is going to be collected by the NADP, that is nicotinamide dinucleotide phosphate, to get converted into NADPH, and also the ADP is going to get phosphate and become, with the electron over here, is going to convert into ATP, which is called as photophosphorylation. So this is what happens in the light dependent phase. Now we come to the next phase, that is light independent phase. So the light independent phase, the new term light independent phase, the old term was dark phase, did not mean that it occurs when it is dark at night. It only meant that the reaction are not dependent on light. That is why it is now better to call it as light independent phase. The reaction in this phase do not require light energy and occur simultaneously with the light reaction. Time gap between the two being less than 1,000th of a second. So you can see, as soon as this takes place, this can immediately start. Immediately, 1,000th of a second ke andar wo start ho sakta hai. So this immediately starts over here. So in this, the conversion of glucose, so the reaction is, conversion of glucose into starch and other chemicals. So most green plants convert the glucose into starch as soon as it is formed during photosynthesis. Several glucose molecules are transformed to produce one molecule of starch. This process is called as polymerization. So here what happens is the carbon dioxide is going to react. Carbon dioxide is going to react with the water to give you C6H12O6, and this after polymerization gets converted into starch. So starch is nothing but the polymer, that is the multiple form of the bigger molecule of the glucose. Some plants change glucose into sucrose, that is cane sugar, which chemically is called disaccharides or double sugar, or sometimes into oils, etc. So this is how the thing takes place. So accordingly, they have given you the figure also over here, that what exactly happens is the water getting converted into O, H and E. The O gives you oxygen. The hydrogen is going to go to the NADP to form NADPH, which on conversion, so when it goes, the NADP, now here they don't mention it properly, but it is this way, that the NADPH is going to be the source to help the carbon dioxide get converted into the glucose. So when it does so, it is going to lose its H over here, and the NADP again is formed. So this process of NADP to NADPH and NADPH to NADP is going to keep on cycling out. There will be a cycle of this thing going to take place, wherein NADP will get converted to NADPH. NADPH during the independent phase going to get converted to NADP again, and then again it comes to the dependent one and goes on. So that process goes on. At the same time, the ADP to ATP is also going to be a process which is going to keep on going on. So every time the ADP is going to get converted into ATP in the dark phase, and then the ATP on using this process over here becomes ADP again. So ADP to ATP, ATP to ADP also will be cycling around during the light independent and dependent phases. So this is how the photosynthesis, the chemical processes takes place during photosynthesis. Now we see some adaptations in the leaf for photosynthesis. So of course the plants want to do a huge amount of photosynthesis because it's not only helpful for themselves, but so because they can produce their own food. So they need more food, so that's why it will always be adapting in such a way that more amount of photosynthesis could take place easily. So first thing is that large surface area. For maximum light absorption, so narrowing the leaves in certain plant is to minimize transpiration, but in order to increase the photosynthesis, there will always be larger surface area. So in transpiration, that is to conserve water also. So transpiration nahi rahega to conserve water, they are narrow, but otherwise normally there will be large surface area of the leaf. The leaves are always broader so that they can do more photosynthesis. Another thing is the leaf arrangements are at right angles to the light source to obtain maximum light. So you will always find that the leaves, many times they are such that the leaves are not just one above the other. One is over here, then the other will be here, and the third one will be here. So accordingly, they will be at 90 degrees to each other, so that the light ray, iska shadow iske upar nahi aayega, and all the leaves will get a proper sunlight. So that way why the adaptation what the plant would be having will be that the leaves are not going to be directly placed one above the other. It will be one here at the 90 degrees के ऊपर, फिर दूसरा यहाँ पे ऐसे करके arrangement रहेगा. Cuticle and upper epidermis are transparent and waterproof to allow light to enter freely. You see, you want the cuticle, that is upper epidermis, should be transparent so that it is allowing the photons, allowing the chlorophyll to get activated easily. So that's why they will always be transparent and a thin waxy layer, so that water will also not be able to be there, because if water bhi rahega, so water will also absorb some amount of heat. So they want that it should be free from water also. That's why it is made waxy coating, so that the water also doesn't stay on that particular leaf. Numerous stomata allow rapid exchange of gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide. So yeah, rapid exchange of gases also takes place with the help of the stomata. So stomata are much more. We just learned that there are around, in 1 square inch there will be so many, around 5 lakh stomata, the chloroplast. So that is also the important part. The thinness of the leaves reduces the distance between the cell, facilitating rapid transport. The leaves are made very thin. Why they are made thin? So that the rapid transport between the sunlight from the top and the carbon dioxide from the bottom and the water which is there is going to get very fast, and that's why the photosynthesis would be much faster without any transport delays. So that's the thin leaves. Sixth is the chloroplasts are concentrated in the upper layer of the leaf to obtain light energy quickly. So the chloroplast, you always find that the upper layer is much more dark green as compared to the lower part. This is because the upper layer requires more amount of chlorophyll so that it can entrap the light energy much easily. The lower part as such also doesn't get in contact with the sunlight, and that's the reason normally you will find that the leaf will be light green on the lower part and dark green on the upper part. And finally is extensive vein system for rapid transport and from the mesophyll to and from the mesophyll cell. See, you will always find that the leaves has got the vein system which is very the widespread. You can see all over the whole leaf there is the widespread of these veins, so that there is a rapid transport of to and from the mesophyll layers taking place. So these are the adaptations which are taking place in the plants for the photosynthesis to be taking place in a faster or a more rapid manner. Now we come to the next part, and that is the end results of the products of photosynthesis. So we already seen this thing, but we'll just we can consolidate the whole thing, that what are the end results of the process of photosynthesis. The first one is glucose, of course, that is the food. That is simple sugar glucose is used in 4 different ways as required by the plant. So first thing is that the plant is going, the end result, what is going to happen is the glucose which is going to be made or which is going to be prepared by the plant is not only going to be useful for the plant immediately but also in the future for storage. That's why we see that immediate consumption, the first one is it will be used up for requirement for the plant by first one, immediate consumption of the plant cell. So plant cell respire. What is respiration? Respiration is nothing but the breakdown of the sugar, breakdown of the glucose to form ATP. So that's why the formation of ATP is done with the help of the breaking down of the glucose, which is nothing but respiration. So firstly is that it will be used up. The plant cells are going to use up the glucose for respiration purpose. Second is stored in the form of insoluble starch. Whatever is excess which is available over there, it is going to be stored in the form of insoluble starch. Okay. The third is convert into sucrose. So the third option is that it converts into double sugar, that's sucrose in some conditions, some plants. And finally, used in synthesizing fats, proteins, etc. So in some plants, these are going to be converted into fats or proteins, etc., wherein they are going to store this particular in that particular forms of proteins and fats. Second is water. Of course, the second from the thing is what we get is water. So this was glucose. Now we come to water. Water produced in the process may be reutilized in the continuance of photosynthesis. Of course, it is not given out, mainly it is not given out in the atmosphere. That water may be present inside that same mesophyll layer so that it can be reused. It can be reused over here for the process of photosynthesis to be carried away, or continuous process of photosynthesis which is taking place. Third is oxygen. Some of the oxygen may be used in respiration in leaf cells. The phenomena called as photorespiration. Of course, the leaf cells also respire. So we know that respiration and photosynthesis both are two separate processes. Respiration takes place throughout the day and the night. So in the day and the night, the respiration takes place wherein the plant is going to take in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. Whereas in case of the photosynthesis, the plant is going to take in carbon dioxide and give out oxygen, but that is only during the daytime. So here we see that oxygen, that some of the oxygen may be reused in respiration in the leaf cells. The phenomena is photorespiration. But the major portion of it is not required and it diffuses out into the atmosphere through the stomata. In a sense, Even this oxygen is not a waste because all organisms require it for their existence, including the plants which require it at night. So you can see that the plants as well as animals, each and every living organism on the surface of the earth requires oxygen. So we can see that even the oxygen, which is the byproduct of this particular photosynthesis, is also very, very, very important. Next we see is what happens to the starch which is going to be formed by this particular plant. So first is utilization of synthesized food and its translocation. So the plant is going to utilize some of this particular thing and it is going to translocate these particular starch what it has been produced or the protein or whatever it has produced during photosynthesis. Food manufactured in the leaf is required for use by other parts of the plant. The glucose is formed in the leaf very rapidly during photosynthesis. It cannot be transported to other parts with the same rapidity. So it is converted into insoluble starch for temporary storage in the leaves. So yeah, the process of photosynthesis is very rapid. Okay, it's a very rapid process wherein the glucose is being generated, and this glucose transporting from the leaves to the different parts of the plant is not going to be so easy, and that's the reason the plants they not do that thing so fast, and hence the leaf itself becomes the storage, a temporary storage medium for this particular glucose, which is in the form of insoluble starch temporarily in the leaves. At night, the starch is reconverted into soluble sugar, which is transported in solution through the veins of the leaves and down through the phloem of the stem. In this way, it gets transported or translocated to different parts of the plant where it may be reconverted into starch for storage, as in potato, to produce energy for various functions in the plant. So we see that when it is night time, when the photosynthesis stops, so no new production of the glucose is going to take place. At that time, this particular starch which was formed as an insoluble starch is going to get converted into sugar again, it converted into glucose again, and then it is passed to the phloem, to the lower part of the plant, and there it is again converted into a starch or maybe some another substance also, and stored in the plant for energy storage. So that is how the potato is a one in which starch is being stored. So that's why we can see that this is how the starch, or this is how the plant stores the excess of sugar or glucose produced by it during photosynthesis. Now we see is the factors affecting photosynthesis. But I think I'll take it in the next video. So in the next video we'll see the factors affecting the photosynthesis, and also one sec, I'll just check up once again. Yeah, so I will continue in the next video.